Yeah, thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure being here, and I'm privileged being here, and what we just heard is amazing, and I'm looking forward to hear the other lectures. I would like to introduce a case that happened in a place in a city that's called Mannheim in Germany, and I connect that also to the Renaissance Now project that I was happy to co-develop after invitation of Doris, and the approach of this Renaissance Now idea. And of course, you might agree or disagree. Art is a game changer for societal challenges. We believe in that. That's why we developed the Renaissance Now project. And the case I'm presenting is Orient. We have some pictures in our mind, and sometimes that's very much led by a romantic idea of the Orient. And this is not here, although it's not romantic, it's realistic. So, and I give you a bit of an overview where this project is embedded, in which ecosystem, in which environment, so that you have a bigger picture and understand why I've chosen this cultural case here. So anyway, it started in the city of Mannheim, as I told you, in the southwest of Germany. And Mannheim had to undergo a huge transformation process some 20-25 years ago, from an industrial city to a post-whatsoever city. And the deputy mayor for culture at the time had a vision and an idea. You must know, so that you know where Mannheim is rooted. In Mannheim, Karl Benz invented the car. So it might be a big disappointment for you. It was not Henry Ford who invented the car. It was Karl Benz in Mannheim. It happened in this city, and from that time on, it was an industrial city, a working class city, let's say. And of course, the times were changing, so we had to transform the city into something. And the second big tradition in the city is music. In the midst of 18th and end of 18th century, the Elector Karl Theodor, who was at the court of Mannheim, he was a big art supporter, and he introduced a big orchestra, the so-called Mannheim School. The musicians here in the audience know the Mannheim School. Mannheim School was the name of the orchestra, which was the best symphonic orchestra at the time. And not that many other orchestras, but still it was the best. And interesting enough, it was a migrant orchestra, we would say with our modern language these days, although no one would have called them migrants. So, and you know, crescendo and the way an orchestra is set up on stage, that was developed there at the court by the support of Karl Theodor. So there's a huge music tradition in the city of Mannheim. So the deputy mayor, Peter Kurz, who is now the executive mayor in his 15th year, he had the idea to develop a cultural city in general and a music city in special. So he has chosen a problematic district in the city that is in the harbor area of the city, and that was not that much maintained, and a lot of the high criminal rate and so on. So this is Town Hall Mannheim. That's just a picture that you know where the whole thing started. And this is this area I'm talking about. It's called Jungbusch. So it was a problematic area there, and at the time there was a call by the state for cities to host the first ever university for popular music in Germany, the so-called Pop Academy. Mannheim applied for that. Mannheim has won the call, and this Pop Academy was established in the city. Here you can see that in this harbor area, along a canal that connects the river Neckar with the river Rhine. In Mannheim you have two rivers, Neckar and Rhine. Neckar comes down from Heidelberg, which is a famous university, as yours here. And so they meet in Mannheim, the two rivers. And River Rhine is one of the biggest rivers in Europe, you know that. So along this canal, they built this Pop Academy, and we won the call for this university because years before we established the music park. What is the music park? The music park at the time was the first startup center for the music business. That was at the time when there was a huge crisis within the music business, you know that. And we have invested into music in this kind. And what is interesting, although it was very successful, it is still the only startup center for the music business in Germany. So you have this music park and the Pop Academy, and then in 2015 the so-called C Hub next to the Pop Academy was opened. C stands for creativity. So this is a startup center for the creative economy in general, that is not music. And here you have another picture. You see the canal between Neckar and Rhine here, so you have an idea what the area looks like. And now in comes Mehmet Ungarn. That's the center of this case. So he's the star of this case. Mehmet Ungarn came to Mannheim as a very young man from the very far east part of Turkey with his parents to Mannheim. You must know Mannheim, approximately 50% of the populations are non-German in Mannheim. and 20% of the population is Turkish in Mannheim, 10% is Polish. So it's a migration city, and it ever was. You remember the orchestra. So he came to the city, and he was playing the oud and the ney, this flute, you know, without the mouthpiece, you know, ney, and he was then became a social worker and then started to study sociology. And then he saw the situation in Mannheim with all the migrants and all the people from Oriental background, let's say, and he realized these people cannot study their instruments from their home countries. So there was no place where you can learn to play the oud. There was the University for Music, one of the oldest in Germany. You can study music there, Western classical music, also jazz. And there is the municipal music school. You can learn violin, piano, and all these fancy instruments, but not oud. So he thought one day he has to do something about that because he was an oud player himself. So he founded the Oriental Music Academy, which you can just call OM, Oriental Music Academy Mannheim. Not OM, but OM. Just OM, okay? So that's the Oriental Music Academy in Mannheim. And at the time he was unemployed. He found two other crazy friends. They rented this house, this apartment, and they just opened the Oriental Music Academy. So they started with courses there on different instruments. They also involved India in the Oriental Music Academy because, remember, we have 50% non-Germans in Mannheim. So this became very, very successful. And as I'm running this big jazz festival, I got aware of them because the students from this Oriental Music Academy met the students from the Pop Academy, met the students from the High School for Music, Western Classical Music. So out of that, they formed bands and created a total new sound, which was not jazz standards in an Oriental manner. No, it was just a new sound. I heard that. I invited these bands, gave them, as the first one, big stages within my festival. And so they know me. I know them, they know me. So one day, and as you can see, he invited in his Oriental Music Academy people from other parts of the world. And in 2004, you might know that the EU was enlarged for eastern part of Europe, Bulgaria, Romania, and so on. And that caused a lot of movement within Europe. So a lot of people from Bulgaria, from gypsy background, came to Mannheim because they had already family members there. So that caused some issues, let's say, especially in some districts, and especially in the district where the Oriental Music Academy is based. So it occurred that Mehmet found, in the morning when he left his house to buy croissants or whatsoever, he saw street kids on the street because the parents, they went for a day work, they just left their kids at home or on the street because low housing. So what did Mehmet do? He said, with his social worker background and socialist background, not socialist, sorry, sociologist. There's a difference, right? I guess there's a difference. Sometimes, okay. He just took these kids, and here you can see them on the picture, he just took them for the day in his Oriental Music Academy, teach them playing instruments, and no one asked him to do that. He just did it because it happened in the street where he was living, and he just took over and took the responsibility for these kids. One day, a journalist came from radio, and I was with Mehmet, with this interview, and this journalist asked Mehmet, yes, but when you did that, I assume that some of these kids, gypsy kids in brackets, they took the instruments home, right? They stole them. And here you can see how Mehmet is, how generous Mehmet is. Mehmet just said, yes, sometimes it happens, but I know sources where I can get new ones. And the good thing is, if they take them at home, they can play them at home. So it's good, so they can continue what they learn here. So that's the mindset of Mehmet, that you understand. So then one day, Mehmet asked me, could we meet, please? I said, yes, of course, we can meet. That was when Mannheim became a UNESCO City of Music. He said, Rainer, it's so successful what we're doing here. We have students from around the world, from Syria, from Tunisia, from the region. We would like to become an official institution so that people can really do their university diploma here. Can you help us start a process how we can do that? So I did that. I organized workshops with the Ministry for Culture of the state, with the Department of Culture in the city. And at the end, to cut a long story short, now you can study world music within the Pop Academy. Let's not talk about the term world music now, but what is interesting, that this is the only place in Germany where you can study world music is in Mannheim, in the Pop Academy. And that's only because this young Turkish man from East Turkey came to Mannheim and had all these ideas. I find this very interesting, and honestly, I cannot understand that this is the only place in Germany where you can study world music. So, and as I am feeling a little bit uncomfortable talking about a real star, that's what I think, a real cultural case, and which is not my case, I'm just reporting, I think you should know a bit more and you should hear Mehmet himself.
Hi, I am Mehmet Ungan, and it's my oud. I really love to play it. So 15 years ago, with my another art friends, musician, I founded the Oriental Music Academy in Mannheim. Bye.
So this is my very good friend Mehmet Ungan, and he's a great person, as you've learned immediately, and he is and he's so connected to the world. He's with the Arabic world, with Syria, and when it happened that we had these huge refugee issues, 2014-15, a lot of refugees from Syria came to Mannheim. We had like 30,000 refugees at the same time in Mannheim, and it happened that he was connected to some refugees who were in the camps because they have been professors for UD, for example, in Syria and Damascus. And then immediately he took again responsibility, just went into the refugee camps and started some projects there. Not some fancy project he found on, he had an idea on the green table, as we say in Germany. No, that was very natural because he was working with these people before they came as refugees. And of course, out of that, and then he also got federal funding for these projects, which is very unusual because in Germany you very rarely get federal funding for local culture, because culture is connected to the states, not to the federal level. And so, but he was supported then not by the cultural ministry, but by another ministry. I mean, we don't have a cultural ministry, but something like that. So this is a picture from this district, just to give you a feeling. So, and that's, in short words, what we just heard, it connects very much, it's very much aligned with what we think Renaissance now could be, or the idea behind. So if you recognize a problem, what Mehmet did several times, or the mayor did with the transformation, then you need a vision and a creative idea, of course. But that's not enough. Then you need this joint strategy, and we did this with the music strategy in Mannheim. The city administration, the academia, the civil society, the arts field, business and economy worked together, all together, and developed all that, from the Pop Academy to the Music Park, and Oriental Music Academy also, because the cultural department of the city got aware of Mehmet, and Mehmet got aware of me, so I could support him, and so on. So there was this ecosystem that fostered all that. That's exactly what Doris said in the beginning, that we should leave our cloisters, we should leave the silos and be connected more, and then we can solve the problems that are only solved together. So, and then you can use this framework that was created in Mannheim for further development, and that's exactly what Mehmet did. He could do that also because there was a background in the city, so that people were aware, and there was a music system already there. And I would like to introduce a term that you know most likely, social beauty, because Mannheim is, people would say Mannheim is a very ugly city because it was totally destroyed during the Second World War, like 85% was destroyed, and next door is Heidelberg, the very fancy, very beautiful Heidelberg. But what we see here with Mehmet is pure social beauty. And this, by the way, is from a house wall opposite side of the Sorbonne University in Paris. I found it very, very social beautiful. And I would like to close with a nice quote I found from Yayoi Kusuma. You know, she's one of the most famous Japanese artists. And if you buy Louis Vuitton, what you most likely do, then you might know her because she's doing again advertisement for them, a huge campaign. which is also beautiful. So, and this is also something we should be aware of, and I think it's good news. So thank you so much.
Very much.